arrived at the crown jewel of the Seventh Doctor era, my single favorite story of this entire era of the classic series. Welcome to the Time Treadmill. I'm Ron, and these are my sweaty thoughts about Doctor Who. The Curse of Fenric was originally supposed to be the season opener for this, the final season of the classic Doctor Who series. Of course, at the time they didn't know it was the final season, but there you have it. In any case, after it was produced, it was decided that this story would be more appropriate to air during the Halloween season, so they swapped places between this and Battlefield. The upshot of that is that there's a costume reveal, or what was intended to be a reveal, in the first part of this story. It's in this story that the Doctor changed from his light tan overcoat to his dark brown overcoat, thus indicating his change from a more comedic, lighthearted character to being a much darker, more manipulative character. And boy, does that come into play in the second half of the story, which I'll get to tomorrow. But so, at the start of this story, when the Doctor and Ace appear, the Doctor is actually wearing a heavy jacket over his overcoat. Lord knows I'm not a costumer or a clothing person. I'm sure I'm using the wrong words for these things. In any case, for the first part of the story, the Doctor's new costume is concealed underneath this heavier jacket, so that when he removes it, his new, darker costume is finally fully revealed. And it's a great moment. It's just a shame that it wound up coming 3/4 of the way through the season instead of at the very beginning of the season where it was intended. And speaking of costuming choices, this is the only story in which Ace wears a period costume for the entirety of the story. She wears a 1940s period-accurate dress throughout the story, and the entire reason she was costumed that way is that actress Sophie Aldred requested it. She wanted at least one story where she got to wear a period costume, and so here it is. And speaking of period, this is the one and only story in the entirety of classic Doctor Who that is set during the Second World War. I will grant you that Genesis of the Daleks was thematically modeled after the Second World War, and of course that Daleks in general are transparently Nazi analogs. But this is the only story that is actually set during the Second World War, and that's kind of surprising to me, although maybe it shouldn't be. Certainly the wounds of the Second World War were still very fresh in the early 60s when the show started. But here, by the end of the 80s, that period in British history has faded far enough that it can actually be a comfortable story setting piece. And what a great setting it is, filmed entirely on location in the south of England on the coastline. And it is a beautiful, beautiful production. It pulls a very similar trick to a favorite novel of mine, The Keep by F. Paul Wilson, which coincidentally is also set in the Second World War. And much like The Curse of Fenric, it appears to be a vampire story for much of its running time, until the vampire is revealed to be something else entirely. And here we have this great period setting with strong gothic overtones, which is always perfect for Doctor Who. Set in and around an ancient fortress that's been repurposed into a church building. It has millennia-old Viking runes being translated. It has British soldiers manning this outpost and Russian soldiers infiltrating the beach. It has the Enigma machine, and oh, by the way, it has Ace's mother as a baby. Yes, and that right there gets into why this story is so significant. Not so much in this half, but in the second half of the story, much of Ace's past is finally revealed. This is a hugely revelatory story, and I will get into that more tomorrow. But at its core, this is just such strong pacing and storytelling with the creepy gothic overtones and interesting complex characters. This is the story more than any other that amplifies why the Seventh Doctor should have stuck around for several more years. The BBC was crazy to cancel the show at this point. After wandering a bit lost for many years, Here, Doctor Who is on point. It's strong storytelling, making the absolute best of a limited budget, and the cast is stellar. Sylvester McCoy in this is on top of his game and plays the Doctor simultaneously at his most compassionate and his most dark and manipulative. And on that count, I absolutely adore this story. I have more to say about it, but I will get into that tomorrow. I'll see you then.